Welcome to another episode of Future Stars Now. My name is Mike Freland. How are you? Hopefully your evening is going well. Just going to be me this week. The Rittster is not available, but that doesn't mean that the show doesn't go on and we don't have an amazing guest. We do have an amazing guest. Tonight is going to be a phenomenal female star. We're going to be able to sit down with her and kind of go through what got her into wrestling, her career, her future ambitions, all of that good stuff. And I promise I won't ask her 5-year plan. It won't be too much like an interview. But right now, Future Stars Now would like to welcome in Allie Recks. How you doing, Allie?
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing pretty
Absolutely.
good.
It is our pleasure. And just to kind of start off, that is a wicked room that you're in right now. That is,
Thanks. This is like my
wow.
prized possession here. This is me and my husband's toy room. This
Oh
is only
my
like a nice
gosh.
half of it that you can see. The wrestling half's kind of this side.
Oh my gosh. We'll get into the toy room aspect very, very soon because I feel like if you are a pro wrestler, there's also a very creative side to you. And therefore, a lot of people love to indulge in the movies and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. So we'll get into that
Oh yeah.
fan stuff in the beginning. But how has life been treating you so far? I mean, I know COVID, I know everything's been a little bit on the crazy side, but how are you and your family been doing during all this craziness?
We're doing good. Me and my husband actually just got married. Back
Congratulations.
Thanks. Back on Halloween, so that was really cool. Other than that, honestly, just working a lot. We're trying to buy a house soon, so we're working on that. So I'm also recovering right now, so I have a lot of time on my hands to work. So it's kind of mostly it, trying to get back in the game here.
Well, I can speak from experience. I mean, just getting married and trying to get ready to, get a house and whatnot. It's exciting, but there's a lot to it, and
Oh yeah.
it's a neat part of life right now. All these things are starting to come together, and you really feel like you're starting to get momentum. So that's awesome for you guys. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's scary,
So
but it's cool.
So before we get into the wrestling aspect, I usually like to ask people, were you into athletics and whatnot, prior to wrestling? Were you always kind of involved in other things that were athletic related that kind of translated well into getting into wrestling?
Yes, actually, that's why I'm having such a hard time when I get hurt and stopping because I've never really had that moment of pause in my life. It was always like one season into the next season. But I was a cheerleader for 14 years. I was a softball player for 14 years. I played soccer, basketball, flag football, believe it or not. Um, a, Pretty much anything I possibly can. I bowled in high school too. I was on the bowling team. I didn't like to have an off season, so I would try to fill it in with something. So yeah, I have a pretty big background when it comes to that.
It's fun to talk to people who are in the wrestling industry who have done other things because normally they kind of have a motor just like that. I was always involved in this, and this, and I was always used to transitioning from one thing to another. And
Yep.
downtime isn't something typically that you're used to, so it's kind of very foreign. Um, Tell me a little bit about what that's been like as far as your downtime so far. What have you been able to do? What have you been not yet able to do? And where are we in the process?
So I had my surgery June 17th of last year. So I think I'm like never been good at math, like 7 months, like post-op now at this point. But this one was actually a little bit harder on me, like mentally. It wasn't my first time getting injured. This was actually my sixth time having to get a surgery of reconstruction of
Wow.
some sort. Between softball, cheerleading, and wrestling, like it was always something. I was a flyer in cheerleading, so I was dropped constantly. So that's how I blew my knee out the first time, and then eventually led up to this time. But I always made it back in like 5, 6 months. Like I would bounce back like real quick. But I guess since I've had so many prior injuries, this one's kind of taking a little bit longer. And the last time I blew my knee out, I was also wrestling only like once a month in like an Elks Lodge. So it didn't take as much as a mental toll on me because I wasn't waiting to come back for so much. But this time, I was working with Ring of Honor with the women's division with the tournament and everything going on. And that was like my first like big break pretty much. Like I've never really worked for a TV company like that yet. So just being brought into Ring of Honor, like I was on cloud nine. And a week after my tapings with them, actually, for the show, it was during training. I actually blew my knee out this time again. And it was just like a really hard 2 weeks, because then the week after that, I got a Zoom call from Maria Canellis, with a ticket to gold for the women's tournament for the summer. And I did not think even remotely I would even be asked to be in this tournament. So that me having to tell them like I can't do it because I have no ACL and no meniscus in my knee
Oh,
anymore, like
geez.
that was probably one of like the hardest things I've ever had to do. Like, to hold back the tears on that call was definitely rough. I would have loved to be a part of that tournament. So this time around, it kind of knocked me down a lot harder than any of the other times, because I was literally on cloud nine. When I was there, I felt so at home and so welcomed, and I had so much fun. And I just hope we can get back to something like that soon, because that was real cool for me.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, that sounds like so much things were happening at that point, and it's got to be difficult, not only from a physical standpoint, to have had these injuries before and to come back from them, and then you have it happen again, which is already enough of
Hmm.
an emotional setback. But then to get that phone call and then obviously realize, hey, I have to
Oh my
miss
gosh,
this.
yes.
It's just,
Yeah.
it feels like it just kind of adds like another anchor onto your body, pulling you down. It's that's a tough
Hmm.
go. So how have you done just mentally, just trying to keep yourself distracted outside of, physical rehab and whatnot? What have you done to try to say, okay, I'm going to keep my mind occupied, I'm going to stay in the game? What are some things that you find help you out?
Well, first I tried, literally right after my surgery, probably like 3 weeks. I was still on crutches. I still had stitches in my leg, and I couldn't sit home any longer because Mike was working all day. So I was literally just sitting here like going crazy. So I went back to my real job at the gym. I'm an assistant manager there. And then I picked up another job, and I was like, okay, I'll work 2 jobs. I'll keep myself extremely busy. So then I got another job at Best Buy, and I was kind of balancing the two. I was working 6 days a week on crutches, and that wasn't what I expected it to be. I thought that it would keep my mind like busy and keep me going, but honestly, it just kind of drove me into the ground more. And I was more depressed, more upset. I missed wrestling more than ever. So I did let go of the Best Buy job. So that was my first attempt, was okay, let me just overwork myself. And then I was like, all right, bad idea. So now, about 6 months into that, I kind of snapped out of it. I got a personal trainer at the gym. His name is Joe. He's really awesome. He has me on a diet plan. He's been training me 5 to 6 days a week, and all the weight that I actually lost during the surgery, he has back on me and then some. So I'm really excited about that. So that's kind of more of my focus now, is more so me. I don't feel like I was putting myself first, because I was trying so hard to keep myself distracted that I wasn't focused on my recovery.
Right.
So now I'm like full blown recovery mode. I'm training like 6 days a week. I'm seeing a physical therapist. Eating more than I ever have in my life. I didn't even know I could eat this much, but I'm getting there. So that's kind of my main focus now. Is just, I have June 17th. I had a year recovery planned. So by June 17th, I'm going to be even more than ready than I was when I left.
It's funny because with knee injuries, they're so much different than I think any other injury. I spent some time. I've had numerous injuries. I had what they call an open wedge tibial osteotomy, and
Whoa.
I had MCL, PCL, LCL. I've had the whole 9 yards with the stem, and then they bend you, and you have to hit a certain degree each
Oh,
day
yeah.
and whatnot. And the scar tissue building up. I think that's why they want to bend you as soon as possible, and they want to get you walking. But you had experienced that already, so none of that was really new for you. But I think it is more so than anything, what people don't realize is it's the mental aspect of it, not necessarily the physical. The pain will come and go,
Hmm.
but it's the mental stuff and keeping yourself busy and occupied. So I give you tremendous credit for keeping yourself busy. But 2 jobs, 6 days a week on crutches.
Yeah.
Holy cow. That is more that I would do even 100% healthy. But I give you credit because a lot of people we talk to in wrestling, they're driven. They're driven, driven, driven. And that's why people succeed. And we talk about this on the show so often. driven people find a way to make things happen. And there's that consistent theme amongst every single person we talk to. It is, this is going to work out. It's not
Yeah.
if it works out, it's when it works out. So let's kind of take a few steps backwards in the process of wrestling. Why wrestling? Why was it something that was something that you were interested in, or how did you become interested in wrestling?
Um, so I grew up with a lot of boy cousins, and I have a little brother, so I was around a lot of boys growing up. They all absolutely loved wrestling, so anytime I got out of school, it was on the TV the minute I got, like, there to start my homework, and eventually I just kinda started looking over, and I was like, "Wow, this is kinda cool." And then, I started watching it religiously. I actually got picked on throughout middle school and, like, elementary school so bad for it because they called me the weird wrestling girl because I was, like, the only female in, like, the world at that point that watched wrestling. So, I, like, kinda hid it for a while because I didn't wanna be picked on anymore and I was embarrassed and stuff, but, by the time I graduated high school, I went to college for a year and I did okay. I passed all my classes. I was just like, "Ugh," like, nobody's forcing me to go at this point, so it's like I kind of want to do what I want to do. So I was going for criminal justice and psychology, which was awesome, and I'm still really interested in it, but it's not wrestling. So I did drop out after a year, and I started training, and that's basically it. I lied to my mom about it for over a year because I thought everybody was going to be so mad at me for dropping out of school to be a wrestler. And I would come home with like black eyes and bruises all over my body, my ribs from like the ropes because I'm like 100 pounds throwing myself around at 18. And I told her I was in self defense classes. And she believed me for like a half of a second, literally, and was like, "What are you doing?" And then eventually I did tell her. And when I did tell her, she was so excited and like so supportive about it. I was shocked. Like, I was like, whoa, okay. And that's kind of where I am now. I have such a great support system behind me. So it's really awesome.
It's interesting when you hear the parents' responses to when their son or daughter decides, "Hey, I'm going to be a wrestler," because it's interesting because I think the initial reaction is, "Oh no, you're going to get hurt." And
Oh,
and
yeah.
I see that from a parent's perspective. You're going to get hurt. I don't want to see my child get hurt, et cetera, et cetera. But then I feel like after they show their parents how passionate they are about it and how enthused they are about wanting to succeed, parents normally get on board really, really quickly. And I think that's awesome that, your mom said, "You know what? Go for it."
Yeah, I think it was more so like the fact that she saw it my whole life. Like I ruined like 4 or 5 of her like digital cameras just recording me and my brother wrestling on the trampoline. We took all her garden hoses and made our own wrestling ring. We did it that style. We spray painted them like red, white, and blue. And then we would set up the tallest ladder my dad had and put the camera on top of it so it could record down, and we thought it was like the coolest thing in the world. And we would just wrestle each other on the trampoline, and like 99% of the time, somebody hits the ladder, camera falls, breaks into a million pieces, and my mom's ready to kill us. So she's she's like she saw it, so she knew. Like when I told her like this is like my dream, mom, like she didn't even question me. Like she was like, I knew this. Like you were Ashley Mazzaro for Halloween 3 years in a row, and I had to go find Hot Topic clothes because they didn't sell anything. So I would go to Hot Topic and find like the punkiest clothes I can find, and boom, I was Ashley for Halloween. Like, so she was supportive.
Yeah, it's funny. So you not only backyard wrestler, but you had a production aspect to it, which I mean, that's
Yeah,
impressive. So you can watch the matches back. I'm impressed by that. You get extra points for that one on the
pretty
interview
bad.
card. I like it. So you decide to drop out, but you're still interested in it. You decide wrestling is definitely going to be something that you want to make your main focus, at least right now in your life. What did you do to start looking for schools? Because a lot of people say, we've heard different people say, well, what was ever closest to me? Or I did go online, or I went to a seminar first, and I really wanted to train behind this person. What was your thought process in wanting to find a school, and what was your kind of priorities with that?
I always love this question because it's like so embarrassing for me to answer. So I had no idea that indie wrestling was a thing. like when I was a kid. I never went to like an indie show or anything like that. I've only went to maybe like 3 or 4 SmackDowns, and that was like our big Christmas present for me and my brother. So that's like all I really know was like WWE or like TNA at the time, and that was it. So when I wanted to become a wrestler, I'm sitting there with my little brother and I'm like talking to him about it, and I'm like, there's got to be a way to do this. Like, people don't just become wrestlers. So I Googled it. I legitimately Googled it. How to become a pro wrestler. And wiki answers came up, and there was like 6 steps on the freaking list. And it was like, 1, Google a school. 2, find a school and call and ask how many rings they have. So I'm on the phone. I call ECPW. That's where my home school is. I was trained by Gino Caruso. So I'm on the phone with Gino as if I knew remotely anything I'm talking about. And I'm like, oh, yeah, how many trainers do you have there? How many rings do you have there? Do you have one-on-one training? And I'm like reading the questions off of like Google. It was so bad. But anyway, I found ECPW that way. And that's why I started training. But it's pretty
Wow.
funny.
So you found it, you started answering the question. You really were like an investigative reporter at that point. They're probably thinking, this girl really has her stuff together. She's asking all these questions. She's very prompt with her questions.
And meanwhile, I'm
Wow.
reading off of Google because I have no idea.
Hey, fake it till you make it, right? That's kind of
You got to
the
do what you got to do,
mantra.
right? Yeah, that's what
Oh,
I'm saying.
so you finally get into a school and you start training. What was the very first class like? Was it one of those things where they kinda try to weed people out, or was it over the next several weeks people get tried to weed people out? Because 'Cause I've heard that numerous
Yeah.
occasions. Or did you pretty much keep the main crew that you first started with?
Um, so there was people obviously that I remember, well, I faintly remember from day one that faded out within like the first month. But for the most part, the same group of people was like there all the time. So on my first day, that's where I met all of my best friends. We call each other like the little new gen on the indie scene, and it's like Sunny Kiss, Alex Ryman, Kenny Bangle, Mike Orlando, my now husband was there. The Graysons, Justin and Spencer, they were there. And that was kind of like the little group, and it still is our group to this day. And I was the only girl that trained there. So when I walked
Wow.
in, everybody was like, oh my God, there's a girl here. And I was like, oh my God, I'm the only girl here, like right away. And I'll never forget it. All of them, all my friends now, they all bet $20 that I would quit, and they bet on me, and I beat all of them. So I was sitting there like, give it to me. So I had people betting on me 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 days. I think one of them said, and I'm still not holding them down for that. Like, I'm still holding them to that. But yeah, they had
Heck
a bet
yeah.
going on me. But
Can you believe that?
whatever, right? I love
Wow.
them to death though. They're
So, when it comes to indie wrestling, you said before that you weren't super familiar that there was a world, and I feel like that seems to be a big thing. Like a lot of people see, WWE, or they see Impact Wrestling or TNA, or they would see WCW at one point in time, but they didn't really know that there were a lot of little territories as it used to be with the bigger promotions, but for a lot of these independents. So were you kind of were your eyes open to realize, wow, there's so many places out here that I can go and that I can wrestle, and there's so many different people that I can wrestle before, even an opportunity comes to sign a big contract.
Yeah, once I literally started finding out about all these different indie places, I had so much to study. It was crazy. Now I'm finding out about New Japan, and I'm finding about all these different places, Ring of Honor, and I was like, oh my gosh, like there is history beyond history in all different categories now that I have to touch base with, even in the slightest, to try to catch up to everybody at this point. Um, yeah, I'm still learning to this day. Like, there's still stuff like, wow, I didn't even know that. That's awesome. So I'm still playing catch up. 8 years later now, I think I've been doing this.
Is it crazy how quickly time goes by too? Because I mean, 2016, it really doesn't feel like it was that long ago. But then in the
Yeah.
same breath, time is really relative because it depends on how much you fill into that time. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? Like, I'm a school teacher and it's been a really rough year. And it feels like since we started in August to now, it feels like it's been 5 years since that
Oh,
very
I know.
first hot day. But would you also feel like you have seen so many things that you would have never seen before, What are some things that have surprised you that you've seen in wrestling that you never like, what? That's actually a thing or that really exists? Anything that kind of caught you and surprised you?
Um, Death matches. I had no idea what a death match was, especially when I first got into this. So when I first even saw footage of a death match, I was like mortified. I was like, "Oh my god, they're trying to kill each other. This is absolutely terrifying, and I don't want any part of this." And I was like, "That's not all these bookings I'm taking. It's not this at all, right?" And I'm like asking everybody, like, "Oh god, no, like I'll let you know." That was probably like my biggest surprise. Like I didn't know how intense it got. Like now I understand it, but when I first saw it, I was literally terrified.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I feel like has caught on a lot, and especially in the indie scene it has. And we're going to get to CZW because CZW is definitely one of those promotions that is very well known for that.
Oh yes.
Um, so outside of that, was there anything about the wrestling business that you quickly picked up on as far as just relationships or etiquette? Etiquette seems to be a big one that we hear a lot,
Yeah.
meaning do you shake everyone's hand to introduce yourself the first time you come into a promotion, or do you kind of keep your mouth shut, grab your bags, find a quiet spot, do your thing? So what was instilled in you when it comes to how do I handle myself when I come in for a first time?
Definitely always to walk in, introduce yourself, and shake everybody's hand. They instill that in your head from day one of training. So when Gino walked me into training, where everybody else was already kind of warming up, he told me right then and there, go introduce yourself and shake everybody's hand. And then even like before we left and everything like that. Just the respect thing in general is more so of what they preach the most since the first day of training, and I didn't know about all of that. I didn't like I knew there was a heavy respect in wrestling, but the psychology and all of that behind it, I had absolutely no idea about that. That was all brand new to me.
So when it comes to like the psychology and whatnot, with your training, we hear nowadays a lot of things with the performance center and a lot of other places that are starting to crop up. So much of the training is in ring, so much of it is like cardiovascular, but a lot of it also now is mic skills and in ring psychology and how to really tell your story in the ring. Did your training have a big influence of being on the mic and understanding how to tell the story?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Gino was awesome when it came to that. A million times I'd be doing practice matches and he would stop me in the middle of practice and be like, "Why did you just hit that?" And I would literally say, "I don't know, it's cool." And he's like, "That's not a good enough reason. No, that doesn't belong there." And he would have to sit there and pick apart, tell me why the drop kick belonged here instead of here, and like for years I did not understand it at all, and I would just shake my head, okay, okay, and just kind of put it in my pocket and keep going. It was honestly within like the last 2 years, if that, that it all just started to click even the slightest. I mean, again, I'm still learning every single day, but within the last 2 years or so, I feel like that light kind of came on where it was like, oh, okay, I get it now. That makes sense. We're telling a story. So if you're missing something here, you should hit it here because, and stuff like that. So just recently has that light came on, thankfully.
When you tell a story in the ring, obviously you're only given so much time ahead of time, to tell your story. Are you the type of person who likes to have A, B, C, D, E completely, okay, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen, etc. Or are you the type of person who likes to go out and just kind of go by feel and just kind of have, okay, these are some bullet points of things at these certain times that we need to do this. How do you regiment and lay out the process of how you want your match to go?
I'm pretty like boom, 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 because I like to know what you're gonna be hitting me with and stuff too, so I can be ready for it and stuff along those lines. But not like every single thing. Like I'm not gonna call chain wrestling out there, but like I want to know what your shine is and like your comeback and stuff like that. So if you're coming with a big kick or something, I know to like protect my face. I've already gotten my nose broken, so I really don't want that again. So stuff like that. But it also depends on the opponent. If it's somebody that I've worked with like numerous times, like Christina Marie, I've worked. God, I can't even say how many times I've been Pennsylvania, New York, in that area. So when it comes down to like her, like I know her so well. Like she really doesn't need to call very much. I can tell just by her facial reactions, like what she's gonna come with next. So when you know somebody really well, you don't really have to call as much. But if you're wrestling somebody like for the first time, I do like to try to put like a small outline at least together, so I have an idea, a little blueprint, and then kind of go from there.
Are you one that likes to watch your matches afterwards, or are you somebody who says, no, it's too fresh, maybe a little bit later on? Because we get we get a mixed bag of responses. Some people absolutely want to watch it back immediately, and some people say, I don't really like watching myself. It's a little awkward. Where are you in that spectrum?
Um, I'm obsessive in that spectrum. Like once I get footage back, I'm going to watch that over and over and over and over. And Mike Orlando, my husband, like he's like my biggest critic, which I love because I go to him for that. And I'm like, what do you see? What could have been better? And he'll sit there and go over it with me. Like, you should have put this here. Like kind of what would do this, switch this. You should have said this. It would have sounded a little bit crisper, a little bit better. And then I kind of just take that and I try to use it in the next match. So if I like ran a spot that I really enjoyed in that match, but something didn't go right or it needed a little tweak, he'll tell me something like, "Oh, if you would have done this, it would have flowed so much nicer." I'm like, "Oh my God, you're so right." And then I'll take that and I'll go to the next match I have and I'll use it there. And then I'll try to hit it the right way. And I'm like that. And he's like, "Okay, cool." And I'm like, "All right, cool." And that's like how I'll learn. So I kind of like when it comes to that because I'm a visual learner. I have to see what I'm doing wrong to fix it, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. I think at least even for me, being told one thing is one thing, but I always like to say, "Can you demonstrate it?" Or "Can you
Yeah,
physically show me something?" Because you do have that muscle memory with your brain that, okay, go here, do this, do that. That makes more sense.
yeah. Or
Absolutely.
if you had to just turn right there, it's like you could show me, "Oh, turn right there. Oh, okay." You know?
Was there anybody that you kind of modeled yourself from, or that you, at least when you first started out, that you were like, "Hey, you know what? I want to take a little bit of this person, maybe a little bit of this," or was a lot of what you do very organic and very natural to who you are?
Um, a little bit of both, I would say. I've always loved like Lita and like Ashley growing up, so their look and style alone, like I dressed like that in like high school and middle school because I wanted to like look like them. I thought that they were such badasses and they looked awesome. So that kind of helped develop my style of me, and that's kind of what I took to now. Like I still dress like that and stuff. So that and I've also loved Avril Lavigne my whole life. I've been a huge Avril Lavigne fan. So I kind of take a lot of like stuff from her music videos and stuff that I would watch in high school and middle school all the time. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. The spray paint here, the hat, the chains. And I kind of just, I'll add that in. But I don't take obviously exactly from the music videos and stuff. Like I twist it to me, evolve it to me a little bit. So it helps, but
You apply it to how you would want it to be, meaning like,
yeah,
"I'll take this, but I'll make modifications and tweak it, obviously to
yeah.
see what suits my style."
Like
Absolutely.
that's cute, but I would like it better this way, kind of thing.
So you had mentioned, several people who had come up the ranks with you as well, and Sunny Kiss was one of those. What was that like, coming up and training with somebody who has been phenomenal on the indie scene without a shadow of a doubt, and now is with AEW? Have you been able to keep in touch and get some tips and pointers, or I know sometimes it's difficult in wrestling. Sometimes other people are doing other things. You're not able to keep, in touch as much. Are you still able to keep in touch with Sunny?
Yes, actually, Sunny was a bridesmaid in my wedding, so
Oh,
we're still as close as literally ever.
nice.
Um, First when we started training, that was my first ever tag team partner. We had matching gear, matching everything, and we were basically cheerleaders. So we would come out, kind of just woo and do fun stuff like that. My whole comeback was Sunny's entire comeback when I first started with the round off back handspring elbow and like a little corner. So Sunny actually really helped me develop into who I am. I still do a lot of the stuff Sunny's taught me. Out of everybody in training, like I love everybody equally, but out of everybody in training, Sunny always seemed to just push me a little bit further for some reason. And I always respected Sunny for that. I've had really awesome matches with Sunny, never any like on a show, but like training matches and like camps, we would have matches and they were always like my favorite matches. I always had so much fun. But yeah, Sunny's helped me a ton.
And Sonny has had great success, and it's one like always keeps coming back to this. The people who push themselves, they push others, and they elevate each other,
Oh yeah.
and that's what breeds successful people. And it's like it's the same secular formula. Everybody who does it seems to find it. Was there anybody also when you first got out on the indie scene? I want to kind of go into bookings as first. Did you know how, or did they cover, hey, guess what? You graduated now, or you're done with our program. How do you do bookings? Was it something that you did obviously through the school first?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you started to branch out and do your own once you felt comfortable with it. So how did you start that process?
Well, first, like I said, I was doing a once a month appearances at like the Elks Lodge through the ECPW school. I would do their shows, and that was like the third Saturday of every month. And I did that for a good year, where I would just do like the one show, and then every now and then Gino would run shows in like Staten Island and like other places in New York, and I would get bookings like there too, and I would wrestle just for ECPW. And then after like a year of that, all my other friends like Alex and Sunny and Mike and the Graysons and Kenny, like they were all getting bookings everywhere else. And I kind of asked them more so like, hey, how did you get those? How do I wrestle in Connecticut? How do I go to Maine? Like, how do I go to North Carolina with you guys? Like, I want to come. So eventually, they were like, just come, like, just whatever, get in the car. And I would just take the trips with them, not even be booked. And would drive all the way to North Carolina with them. Sometimes I would just watch them wrestle and like help them run their tables and then drive the whatever time home. And then sometimes I would get there with them and they would need another girl and I was on the show out of nowhere and I was like, oh my God, this is great. And then they would ask me to come back next month. And then eventually like they just kept asking me to come back. And then it would happen every couple shows or so until eventually like I was booked at least once a weekend and I was traveling with all my friends all the time. And I was like, this is awesome. Like I want to do this forever.
So once again, if you're a seasoned vet right now, I mean, it's in 2022, your advice to people would be squeaky wheel gets the grease. I mean, it sounds very cliche, but just the fact of showing up and willing to help out and doing anything or running merch tables, people
Hmm.
see that, don't they? And then all of a sudden they need somebody and then boom, it starts to snowball.
Yeah, and that's literally what happened. I went from being the ticket girl at the front to actually having my own like singles match when I didn't even have a singles match ever, and I was like, wow, this is cool.
So, from a lot of people that we've talked to when it comes to this, it really is word of mouth. And hey, how did you do this, or how did you do that, or what is this promoter's contact information? I'm going to
Yeah.
show up and introduce myself, and then really, you are a business person. You know, you're not only trying to meet these different people, but you're starting to find out, man, these car trips are really long, and
Yeah.
the indie scene does not pay a whole lot. So, for somebody listening to this interview right now, give a little reality check who someone says, oh, I'm going to be a superstar, I want to be a wrestler. What is the realities of it like as far as getting into a car, the travel, the gas, the food, and then what a payoff would normally be early on in your career?
For years it was like that, honestly. I've had people like yell at me like that you need to ask for more and stuff, but I've had that happen for years. In the beginning, a lot of times they'll tell you that you're just wrestling for oh my gosh, I'm blanking right now. What is that word? Why am I blanking right now?
Just for like experience
Like
or
experience, exposure, that's the word I'm looking for. Like
right.
exposure, like this is exposure for you, it's going to be great for you, all these people will find out who you are, and like the more people that want you to come back, that's more of a reason for us to book you. So I would go into all of these shows trying to get all these people to cheer for me and be like the biggest baby face ever so that they want me to come back and try to get all these fans and like hope for like God, I hope they ask me to come back. And that's how it was for like a year until somebody like sat me down and they're like, okay, like you've been doing this for a year now, you have at least like 50 matches under your belt, you need at least ask for $20, at least ask for something. Like you can't just go out there for exposure anymore.
Right.
um but and yeah, it does take a long time. You have to earn a lot of people's respect. You have to earn your place. That's another thing. You have a lot of vets out there that are doing their thing and stuff, and you have to earn your spot. Like you really do.
So you're out there, you're hustling, you're doing your thing. Years start to click by here. Was there anybody early on in your career that kind of pulled you aside, or was there that moment? I don't want to call it a hallmark moment, but a moment where somebody who's been in the business for a while says, "Hey, can you come here for a second?" or says something to you, or something that resonates with you for years to come that you don't forget. Was there ever a moment like that where you were like, "Wow,
Yes.
I just had an amazing conversation," or just listened for what someone had to say to me?
That probably was kind of the moment I was getting in, like describing a little bit, was that moment where I was pulled aside and it was like, hey, you've been doing this for long enough. You deserve a lot more than this. And I was actually wrestling in Texas, and um, I'm not gonna throw promotions and stuff, but whatever happened, my hotel room fell through, and this was the first time I ever traveled without Mike, like, and got on a plane by myself. I never even rode on a plane by myself, so I was going from Jersey to Texas. I was absolutely terrified, but I was like, I got this. So when I got there and the hotel and everything fell through, I didn't have anywhere to sleep, and I knew I wasn't flying out until the next morning. And if I didn't have the hotel, I couldn't get to the airport because of the shuttle and stuff. So I was like panicking for like a split second. And Angelina Love actually pulled me aside, and she was like, "Relax, everything's fine. I have an extra bed in my room. Come upstairs with me, and you'll stay here with me." And brought me up there, and like asked me what happened. I like explained to her everything that happened, and I was like, you know what, it's fine, like everything's fine, like I'm still wrestling tonight, I'm so excited, all this stuff. And she was like basically just sat me down and said like, I'm so happy you're so excited to be here. But I was about 5 years in, I think, at this point. And she was like, you've had over 100 matches, you're 5 years in, and you've wrestled me already, like in Pennsylvania. You're a lot better than you think you are. And to hear that from like somebody of her level, I was like, whoa. And she was just like it's okay to stand up for yourself. Like, and it's like you're better than this, pretty much. And just to hear that from her, which like I take that to me everywhere I go now. It was cool.
We had Angelina on the show, and she's a pretty awesome person. I mean, it's one thing when you see someone on TV, but then when you actually get to talk to them and get to know them as a person, you're like, whoa, like your respect for somebody and your fanhood just blossoms like you wouldn't believe, just because
Oh yeah.
people who take time to say something to you when they don't have to, people who do things for you when they don't have to, it gives you that inspiration and hope that, you know what, this can work out. And it's so cool to get great advice from somebody who's reached the success levels that she has.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So you're wrestling, you're doing all these types of things. What's it like when you run into people at shows nowadays? I mean, obviously you've been wrestling for quite a while now, and obviously you're taking a short break right now. But is it surreal when people come up to you, or they want to buy merch, or they want to talk to you or whatnot? It's got to feel like, whoa, is this really happening? But it's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah, I still get super excited. I still act like it's my first autograph that I'm signing. I think it's awesome. I'll honestly never get tired of it when it comes to stuff like that. I'll always have time for that. That makes me so happy.
So we know wrestling is so much of a business, and there's so many things nowadays that wrestlers have the opportunity to do that they didn't have to do prior. I mean, there's Instagram, and there's TikTok, and there's Twitter, and obviously Twitch. People can get on and game on Twitch, and they can interact with their fans as well with that. How much do you rely on building your brand and building who you are based upon social media, and how much time do you put into something like that?
I wish I had more time to put into it. I try my best when it does come to social media. Like I did make a Twitch, but I barely have time to play games. Um, Stuff like that. I do try my best. So, Instagram and like Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, I'm pretty good with keeping up with. But other than that, the rest I'm not so good with. I took over that assistant manager at the gym right now, so that's been taking up so much of my time, and I have employees to look out for now, and all these new responsibilities and roles. So that's that's been what it is lately.
So once you're back and everything is rocking and rolling again, I said at the top of the show I wasn't going to ask this question, but what what's your long term plan? What's your ultimate goal here? I mean, Obviously we know you want to take things as far as you can. You want to succeed. Is there a ultimate in your mind, this is what I want, or is it just, hey, I'm going to take it as it comes, whatever happens to happen, and just kind of go with the flow?
I was like that, like riding it out pretty much for the last 8 years. Like, hopefully something happens. But now that I just got hurt and I've had time to be out and think and be on the sidelines and watch and all of that, now my mindset kind of 360'd and it's more so like this needs to happen. Like, I haven't had wrestling for 7 months now, and that's been like the worst thing ever. I can't imagine going the rest of my life without it. So I need to do something pretty much. I need to make it happen.
Um, what other women wrestlers have you gotten a chance to kind of interact with, after matches are over, after shows are over, and just kind of hear what their personal stories are? Any unique stories from people that you've heard, and as far as triumph or coming back from injury, anything like that?
Yeah, actually, I've had a lot of people reach out to me after this one because I guess they knew I was taking it a little rough after finally like with Ring of Honor and stuff. So, um, I've had people tell me their stories, how they were signed with the WWE and blew their knee out during that kind of training and actually got released from it, and things that were so much worse than my scenario. And that helped a little bit, made me feel like I wasn't alone. Because at first, like when this was the sixth time or the fifth time I've blown my knee out, and I'm only 26, so I'm like, I was more so like, why does this keep happening to me? Like, why me? Why can't I just go more than 3 years without getting hurt? Or why? What am I doing wrong? Why, like, like who's out to get me? Pretty much. So just to know that like other people, they're going through it too when they feel like they're on the top of the world too, like they've been brought down. So that's kind of helped me claw back up. When I sat there for 6 months crying about it, hearing their stories has helped me fight back up for sure. Made me really feel like I wasn't alone anymore, because that's the probably the worst part about injury is the loneliness. You feel really alone.
With so many different places that you've gone and wrestled at, I mean, it's your resume is very impressive. I mean, you've been a lot of places. I mean, Impact Wrestling as well, obviously Ring of Honor, and it's difficult, especially with the Ring of Honor situation where it is right now. Um, a lot of people are very, very hopeful Ring of Honor does come back. What has Maria told you as far as, hey, when Ring of Honor would return? Has there been any communication, anything like that, or hey, we would like to work with you? And
Well, when the last one I talked to them with the women's division, like Wednesday and the tournament and stuff, they said they would absolutely love to have me back when I was healthy and can return into the ring, like in ring action and stuff. So that made me feel so, so happy. Other than that, I did see Maria about 2 weeks ago up in Pennsylvania. She was at PPW doing signings, and I was up there as well. So we did touch base a little bit, and she doesn't really have too much information on what's going on going forward. So it's kind of up in the air. I have really no idea either. Um, but I think they said something. Yeah, honestly, I really don't know. I really I can't say. I have absolutely no idea. I'm just hoping the same thing too, that we can get back on ball with it.
yeah, no, I agree 100%. There's so many talented people who have been working their butt off with Ring of Honor, and so proud of all the women's division in there as well. They have really elevated their game, and it would be great to see that continue on. Hopefully, with their projected date was March/April, I
Yeah,
believe was kind of what they were shooting for here. Let me kind of transition to something kind of fun here. So I see that your room is wickedly cool. I mean, that is
got some stuff.
almost like a storefront. So kind of explain to me, your fascination with the superheroes and your collectibles, and how much time you and your husband kind of put into that.
This has been about 5, I think that how long have we been together? I should know that. I think about 5 years now, I've worth collecting. So I had absolutely nothing collectible-wise when I met him. He had a little start going. He had a bunch of wrestling action figures, some Joker figures and like Batman figures, but maybe about like a shelf full that he had in his room for most of his life. I thought it was the coolest thing when I met him, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, I love that movie, and I love this movie." And he's like, "Oh, like you should start collecting too." And at first, I was like, I don't know if I want to spend my money on all these like different toys and stuff that I'm just gonna look at. Like I'm not even gonna play with them. I'm just gonna look at them. So at first, I was like, eh. But then I remember when Jurassic World came out. I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan growing up my whole life.
Awesome
That's my
series. Yes.
all-time favorite. So when Jurassic World came out, they came out with all those new lines of dinosaurs, and he came home with like this whole thing full of them, and he just like drops them on the couch, and I was just almost like a kid on Christmas. I never thought I would be so excited over dinosaur toys, and I was like, oh my god, look at this one, and I'm like freaking out. So that's kind of what got me started. He just came home with them one day, and now I wanted to finish the collections because he made sure he only got me like one of the Velociraptors. So I only had Blue, and now I need Echo and Delta, and I need all of them now. So now I got to go back and I got to get all the other ones. He knew what he was doing. He's smart. He knows.
He's hooking you into it
He did.
slowly, those little breadcrumbs. So you said he definitely did a lot. You said the other half of your room is kind of even more wrestling themed, correct?
Yeah, that's more so like on this side. We have a lot of wrestling action figures, just all open, all out displayed, stuff like that. Behind me is going to be more so Scooby Doo and like dinosaurs. Those are mine. And then lots of superheroes. Yeah, they have lots of stuff in here.
Wow.
Ghostbusters, Back to the Future.
That's exciting. That's awesome. Let me ask you the question we always like to ask wrestlers. It's called the hot tub time machine, and I first want to say I'm not the originator of this question. It is my partner, the Ritt, who has created this. So the hot tub time machine works a little like this: if you were able to go back in time at any point in time, any moment in pro wrestling, there's a match between two people. You go ahead and take one of those people out of it and put you in that match. What match would it be, and why?
Oh my gosh. I'm supposed to narrow that one down.
I know it's really, really tough. It's some people like Sean Waltman was able to go ahead and just nail his immediately. There's a lot of people, Jerry Lynn, one of the founders of this program and this channel, was able to go ahead and name it quickly. But a lot of people end up saying, "Man, that's really hard because it's one match." But this is going to be your shining moment. One match, two people. One of them you have to pull out. One of them you're going to have the conversation and say, "Hey, sorry,
Hey,
you're not going to be in anymore. I'm actually I don't know if you would say I'm actually taking your spot, but you're
excuse
out.
me.
Someone exactly. Pardon me. No offense. I get it. You're a Hall of Famer, yada yada, but you got to go. I'm coming in." What do you think? Even just throw out a couple of matches that you think would be amazing if you could put yourself in.
Absolutely any Trish Stratus Lita match, hands down.
Yes.
Any, doesn't even matter which one. But my all-time favorite match ever is Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero at Halloween Havoc. I
Oh,
can imagine putting myself in that though, so I would probably have to go with a Lita and Trish match.
you cannot go wrong. I mean, Amy Dumas has been amazing for so many years. How cool is it that she came back for the Royal Rumble?
Oh my gosh. I thought it was awesome. I freaked out. Even seeing Beth Phoenix, like she looked awesome. Like
She did.
so awesome. I couldn't get over the whole look, the makeup it was all just such a perfect like tribute, everything. I loved it. So seeing that
Um,
stuff is making me happy.
let me ask you this: what kind of have you ever been front row to a live event?
Um One of the smaller ones, yes. They used to run in Wildwood, New Jersey in their convention center, which was like pretty small. So the front row tickets were so much cheaper than like regular, and it was like a live event. So I did get front row seats there. That was the first time I ever touched Jeff Hardy and Rey Mysterio's hands as a child, and I loved it. That was probably one of the moments that made me realize like this is what I want to do. This is so cool.
Yeah, being front row, I will say, or being close to the guardrail, it's a different experience. I mean, being that close to the action, it's different than sitting, maybe in the first section of hard plastic seats. but
Oh
just
yeah.
being there, it's just that energy. You know what I mean? You almost feel like you're a part of what's happening. And I went to WrestleMania in Chicago, and I was lucky enough to be pretty close. And the match, I believe it was Mickey and Trish, was I love Mickey James. I feel like Mickey James has continued to transcend women's
Oh
wrestling.
yes.
She hasn't aged a day. She's only gotten better. And to see her succeed and that feud with Trish was
I
just,
know.
when she was that obsessed fan, I was like, this girl's crazy. But then as you start to really follow the story, it became so well done.
Oh yeah.
And it Trish elevated Mickey, and it just shows how much of a pro Trish is.
Oh, absolutely. But Mickey too. Mickey's amazing. She's
I
breaking
agree.
down doors left and right,
She
literally.
is. How do you feel about the whole Forbidden Door conversation? I mean, with WWE, we normally found out that, you are working for them, but you're not really a independent contractor. But nowadays with AEW, obviously sometimes with Ring of Honor, sometimes with NWA, you really do have an opportunity to move around and work for different promotions. Do you feel like that's something it makes things a lot more enjoyable as far as being able to make money and exposure?
I think the whole bouncing around thing is awesome. I support it. I think it's so cool to see everybody going from like thing to thing like that. Like that just shows competition. It shows everything. Um, I think it's awesome. I'm there for it.
Any promotion so far that you've worked with, outside of Ring of Honor, obviously, that you are like, this is the place? Like, I love coming to this place. We've heard a lot of people say Black Label Pro. We've heard a lot of people say Warrior Wrestling, which is so cool. I love Warrior Wrestling. Mission Pro is amazing under Thunder Rosa. Is there any place in particular that you say, you know what, I just absolutely have a ball when I go back there?
I would say PPW, honestly. PPW up in Pennsylvania has been home for me for I can't even say how long now. They gave me the opportunity to have my first ever women's championship. I was their first ever women's champion. So them having that type of confidence in me when I was like the out of state girl and they were bringing me up and bringing me in, like that was really cool. And I felt like the most support from them. They've always felt like family. Everything's always felt like home there. So I would probably say there, hands down. I have obviously like so much fun everywhere I go wrestling, but that's just always home for me.
I've we when we first started our relationship with PPW, the first thing I realized about them is how much they love wrestling and how much they love and have respect for the talent. And they just want to take care of people, and they want to put on a good show and make sure everyone has a good, it's almost like a big party. And that's what I love the most about them. They legitimately love wrestling. They love what the fan interaction is, and they take care of people. So I'm with you. I have nothing but love for PPW as well. This has been, I know we're kind of pressed up against the clock here, but this has been so much fun. And I think our audience has gotten to know you even more so. Is there any chance we'd be able I would say bend your arm, but I don't want to jinx you with any more injury situations. Is there any way we would be able to convince you? I'm going to change that when someone has an injury. Is there any way we could convince you to come back again and give us updates and let us know how things are going with you?
Absolutely. I would love to come back. I had so much fun chatting with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Plug O Mania. Where can people follow
Oh,
you? Where can they find you? Where can they get merchandise? Where
yes.
the whole nine yards? I want everyone to know Allie Rex. I'm going to go ahead and start following her because that's what we're going to do. This is your time. Tell everybody, where are you at?
Okay, so I tried to make it very easy because I'm very forgetful myself. I'm at Allie Rex on absolutely every platform. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all at Allie Rex. WrestlingTees.com/Allie Rex. Think that covers it.
Perfect. Guys, I'm telling you right now, please follow Allie. She is a phenomenal talent. But as I always say, when we meet somebody super, super special, a better human being. And I think that is the
Oh,
best
thank
part of
you.
what we get to do is we get to meet people, we get to hear their stories, and we get to learn a little bit more about what their journey was. And that makes you root for that person even more because you have that special connection with them. Allie, continue to train, continue to get better. We are behind you 100%, and we can't wait to talk to you
Thank you.
soon.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. I'm excited. I'll talk to you
All righty,
soon.
we'll talk to you down the road. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye.
All right, guys, that's Allie Recks, an amazing, amazing person. And it's so fun to hear, her take on different things. I mean, the Angelina Love hotel story is something that I'm going to definitely take away from this interview. But just her dedication to wanting to continue to wrestle and, multiple injuries, and she still never wanted to quit. That is what success is. And we talk about this all the time on the show. Success is somebody who decides, you know what? I'm going to continue to put effort in. I'm going to continue to try. I'm going to continue to work. And you know what? One of these days, something's going to work out for me. And she is the perfect example. I love the aspect about she just said, you know what? Let's get in the car and let's go. And she got recognized for being that squeaky wheel, getting the grease. And that's all it takes. Whether it's wrestling or whether it's your job or whether it's anything, the more proactive you can be, the more you're willing to put yourself out there. I'm telling you, these aren't just cliches that people say to lead you to success. These are things that are absolutely 100% true. So, with that being said, I have had a lot of fun. I hope you've had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Future Stars Now. Have a great rest of your Friday evening, and we will catch you next time on Future Stars Now.